Hey, welcome back to my channel. I make weekly art tutorials, paint-alongs and vlogs, and in this video, the watercolors in particular that we're going to be swatching and looking at are the Daniel Smith watercolors, which are here. So I bought the 238 colors to try set. This set of 238 colors was, I'm ashamed to say, £25, which we shall see whether it's worth it. What I'm going to do is do a video per page. So in this video, we're going to be covering the yellows, the oranges, the reds and the purples. And in the rest of the videos per each one, we will basically be doing the blues and the greens and the neutrals and then the more special colors, if you like. And I think this is the best way for me to kind of give you the best value and make it very useful in terms of what you get with the swatch card as well as the dot cards, which I, to be perfectly honest, wasn't very impressed with when I opened it, and you can check that out in my last haul video. Apart from the dots themselves, you also get information on the light fastness rating, so is it going to fade in the light or not, whether it's staining or non-staining, i.e. how easy is it to lift, whether it granulates, so does it separate, is it transparent, semi-transparent or opaque, or is it part of the Primatex series, which is essentially when, I guess, stones and minerals are crushed to create this paint. Unfortunately, what is not included is actually the pigment information of the paints, which I think is quite a shame because it would have made this even more helpful. So instead, I'm going to look it all up myself from the Daniel Smith website and the Jackson's website and include that and tell you that throughout the video. As well as swatching, we're also going to be keeping in the back of our minds whether or not this is worth it or whether you should just buy the colors outright by watching other people's videos, and I'll do an overall video on that later. But to try and get as much as I can out of it, I'm using a waterproof pen. For me, it's my Unipin fine liner, but you can use a Bic or anything else that you have at home that is waterproof. That's the key thing, to do straight lines across each kind of segment. And the reason that I'm doing that is that when I activate the paint and I paint across it, I want to get a better idea as to how opaque or translucent it really is, because you know, sometimes paints behave differently than we expect or differently than we are told on like the information packs. Let me know if having a scanned copy of the finished swatch cards is something that you would find helpful, especially as I'm going to be putting in the pigment information. And if it is, then that's something that I can make available to those who subscribe to my newsletter, and I'll leave a link to that down below as well. With no further ado, let's get into why we came here. Let's start swatching. So the first color is buff titanium. It is of excellent light fastness, it is non-staining, granulating and semi-transparent. It's also part of series 1, which is Daniel Smith's cheapest set, so it goes from series 1 to 4, and it's pigment PW6-1. Now initially, I must admit, I wasn't that blown away by this color, but then someone very helpfully pointed out using it for beach scenes, using it just as a nice neutral color for cliffs, and all of a sudden I started seeing the potential of having this color, even potentially as like mixing it. So yeah, wasn't initially on my like favorites list, but it's working its way up. Next is the Nickel Titanate Yellow, which is PY53. It is series 1, again the cheapest series, excellent light fastness, non-staining, granulating and semi-transparent. Now this color to me looks like a nice cool yellow. It's described as semi-transparent, but for me personally, I feel like it leans a little bit closer to the opaque side than the transparent side. And of most interest, it's actually used in all the cadmium like hue colors. Basically have this pigment PY53, so that's the cadmium yellow medium hue, the deep cadmium yellow deep hue, the cadmium orange hue, the cadmium red hue. You get the picture. They all also have PY53, so this is, although on its own I wasn't very impressed by it, this might be a very good mixing color if you're looking for something, although again bear in mind that it is a little bit more on the opaque side. Next, and I'm sure I'm going to say this wrong, but Bismuth Vanadate Yellow. So this is a series 2 color. It is pigment PY184, excellent light fastness. It is low staining, actually, non-granulating and opaque. And funnily enough, although this one's labeled as opaque, I could see the line clearly, crisply through. So for me, it was actually leaning more towards transparent or semi-transparent. Next, we have the Hansa Yellow Light, which, as I mentioned earlier, is, ooh, that is so nice, PY3. Other brands sometimes call it lemon yellow. It's a really nice cool or neutral yellow. It is Series 1, very good light fastness, low staining, non-granulating and semi-transparent. And this is actually one of the colours that I picked for my palette, and I think I would either pick that one or actually lemon yellow, which we'll swatch a little later. This is Azo Yellow. It is PY151, slightly warmer than the Hansa Yellow Light. It is of excellent light fastness. It's medium staining, non-granulating and semi-transparent. Next, we have cadmium yellow light hue. So Daniel Smith have got rid of their cadmiums in their colors, and instead they have the hues, which means that they have a similar color but don't actually contain the cadmium metal. This is made up of PY53, PY138 and PY3. It is of series 3, so slightly more expensive than the other colors we've seen so far. Very good light fastness, low staining, non-granulating and semi-transparent. But you can see that we're getting warmer as the yellows are getting slightly warmer and warmer as we go down. Warmer still, we have cadmium yellow medium hue, which is series 3, excellent light fastness, low staining, non-granulating and semi-transparent, and again obviously warmer than the colors that came before it. Next is a color that I can't pronounce no matter how much I practice, but I'm going to settle with Aureolin, which is also cobalt yellow. It's a series 3 color, very good light fastness, non-staining, non-granulating and transparent. And this is such a beautiful yellow, like really nice and warm. And I love warm colors. It almost reminds me of like New Gamboge in other brands, but I have seen videos and I have been warned that the light fastness isn't great and it turns into an ugly brown color. So for that reason I'm going to steer clear of it, but first glance is that it's nice and warm and really pretty. And it's pigment PY40. This is the lemon yellow. It's pigment PY175 series 1, which is the cheaper end of the series. It is excellent light fastness, low staining, non-granulating and transparent. And looking at it, it was actually transparent, unlike unlike some of the other colors. If you are still watching, then you are a real MVP and I really appreciate you. Let me and everybody else in the comments know that you're watching by telling me what you tend to think about pigments. So have you learned about pigments, or do you think that they don't tend to matter as much? Cadmium yellow deep hue, which is PY53 and PY83. I know it's almost implied in the name, but I was surprised by like how warm and deep the color was. So it is series 3, excellent light fastness, non-staining, non-granulating and semi-transparent. And yeah, looking at my line test, it actually was semi-transparent. Next, we have Hansa Yellow Medium, which is PY97. It is series 2, excellent light fastness, low staining, non-granulating and semi-transparent. Oddly enough, on my line test, it looks transparent. So I don't know if it's a question of whether you add multiple layers, it then becomes more semi-transparent, but yeah, it's really nice and warm. Next, we have Mayan Yellow, which is PY223. It is series 3, very good light fastness, non-staining, non-granulating and transparent. And in terms of transparency, it kind of performed the same as the Hansa Yellow Medium. Next, we have Naples Yellow, which to me never actually looked like a yellow. It looks more like a peachy color. It's made up of PW4, PY97 and PR101. So it's quite a nice, unique color. It is a series 1 color, excellent light fastness, non-staining, non-granulating and semi-transparent. For me, it actually was almost like opaque, as in it's closer to the opaque end rather than the transparent end if we're looking at semi-transparent, if you like. And initially when I swatched it, it was maybe a bit more of like a golden orange, and with time it just got a bit lighter once it dried. Following that, we now have Indian Yellow. So this is of pigments PY97 and PY150. It is series 3, excellent light fastness, low staining, non-granulating and transparent. And again, a really nice warm yellow. Kind of reminds me of New Gun Beige, but it is Indian yellow. It is such a stunning, stunning color. And of course, initially when I saw this, I was like, okay, I have expensive taste, but yeah, beautiful yellow. Next, we have the Hansa Yellow Deep, which is PY65. It's Series 1 color, excellent light fastness, low staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. Looking at my line test, the line actually looks completely clear. So for me, it's behaving a bit more transparent. And although it is technically a yellow, it looks very much orangish to me. Following that is New Gun Beige, which again to me looks quite orange. It is pigments PY97 and PY110, Series 1, excellent light fastness, low staining, non-granulating, and transparent. New Gun Beige is actually the color that I picked to be my warm yellow in my Daniel Smith palette, and I wanted to compare it for you so that you could see how true to color are the dot cards. And for me personally, I think that they actually resemble quite closely. The paint from the tube was warmer and deeper and more saturated than the dot card, which I guess is kind of to be expected, but I think it's a relatively close match in that, yes, for the New Gun Beige you get a good idea of what the color actually is. Next, we have Iso Indoline Yellow, which again looks quite orangish. So really, really warm yellow. It's pigment PY139, Series 2, excellent light fastness. It's medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. Next is Permanent Yellow Deep, which is PY110, Series 2, excellent light fastness, low staining, non-granulating, and transparent. Following that, we have like this stunning color, and I must say I'm not usually one for granulation, but there's something about this color. It's called Aussie Red Gold. It's pigments PY83, PY101, and PV19. It's a series 2 color, excellent light fastness, low staining, non-granulating, and rated as transparent. Personally, I would say it's semi-transparent at best, but leaning very closely towards opaque rather than transparent, but that's just me. But it just granulates and form these beautiful colors that you can see, reds and oranges and yellows. It's just absolutely stunning. I haven't got it in my palette yet, but I think it is going to be an addition. Next is Pyro Orange. It is P073. It's a series 3 color, excellent light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. It's kind of like a peachish, pinkish orange. Next we have Permanent Orange, which is P063. It's a series 3 color, excellent light fastness, low staining, non-granulating, and transparent. For me personally, I'm not a massive orange person. I tend to prefer my yellows, my reds, my purples, basically every other color. So I definitely underuse orange, but it's worth having, or at least considering. Next is Cadmium Orange Hue, which is PY53, again, P073, PY83. It's a series 3 color, excellent light fastness, low staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. Again, same, getting warmer and warmer as we're getting down. Really nice bright orange. We have next a Perinone Orange, which is P043. It's a series 3 color. It is excellent light fastness, although it also says NR, which means not rated, so I guess they're assuming it's excellent. It's high staining, non-granulating, semi-transparent, and again a really, really bright orange. Now we get to the reds. So this is Cadmium Red Scarlet Hue, which is PY53 and PR254. It's a series 3 color, excellent light fastness, low staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. And yeah, it's the run-of-the-mill warm red. Next we have Transparent Pyro Orange, which is P071. It's a series 2 color, excellent light fastness, low staining, non-granulating, and transparent. And again, this one, yeah, it's like it's a nice warm orange. Next we have Organic Vermilion, which is PR188, series 2 color, very good light fastness, according to them: low staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. Following that, we have Mayan Orange, which is a Series 3 colour, very good light fastness, low staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. And we don't actually get given any pigment information on that, not on the swatch cards as is normal, but also not on the Daniel Smith website and not on the Jackson's website. So no one really seems to know what this is made of. This is the quinacridone coral, which is PR209. It's a series 2 color, excellent light fastness, low staining, non-granulating, and transparent. And it seems to be quite a popular color, quite a popular, I guess, warm red amongst YouTubers. To me, it looks like quite a nice pinkish red. Next, we have Pyrrole Scarlet, which is PR255. It's a Series 3 colour, excellent light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. It looked really vibrant when initially swatched, but actually with time it kind of faded a little bit and got a little bit lighter. Now we have a Pyroline Scarlet, which is PR149. It's a Series 3 colour. It is very good light fastness, although they admit that it hasn't been rated at the same time. It's medium staining, granulating, and semi-transparent. And I know that perhaps a swatch isn't the best way to know, but if you told me that this wasn't granulating, I would have probably believed you. It's not massively granulating. Next, we have a cadmium red medium hue, which is made with PY53 and PR254. It's a Series 3 colour, excellent light fastness, low staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. And we already mentioned before that a lot of these colours have the nickel titanate yellow, which is PY53. Next, we have Pyrrole Red, which is PR254, which is also seen in the cadmium medium red hue above. It's a Series 3 colour, excellent light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. Next, we have Pyroline Red, which is PR178. It's a Series 3 colour, excellent light fastness, but they also mention it hasn't been rated. It is of medium staining, non-granulating, semi-transparent, and it's such a punchy red, like the kind of red you would imagine in a lipstick. That's the red that I see. Next is Permanent Red, which is PR170, F3RK70. That kind of pigment I haven't seen before. It's a Series 1 colour, very good light fastness, high staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. This is Permanent Red Deep, PR170. It's a Series 1 colour, very good light fastness, but not rated by ASTM. It is medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. This is Quinacridone Red, PV19. It's a Series 2 colour, excellent light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and transparent, and it is stunning. I know it's called a red, but to me it looks like a bit of a deep pink, like a very deep pink. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful colour. Followed by Anthraquinoid Red, which is PR177. Now, this colour is a Series 2 colour. It is excellent light fastness, but again, not rated. Medium staining, non-granulating, and transparent. And it's such a nice, almost like wine colour. It reminds me like a wine red, basically. Next, we have Mayan Red, which is a Series 3 colour. It's PR287. It's very good light fastness, low staining, granulating, and transparent. And this is a colour that, to be perfectly honest, I don't mind that it's expensive because it's not a colour that I'm going to get. I much rather prefer the Quinacridone Red and just the other reds that we've gone through. And that's been the case for a lot of the Series 3 colours. I ain't mad at it. Next, we have Alizarin Crimson. I still can't say this. It's PR83. It's a Series 1 colour. It is unfortunately fugitive, which means that it's not light fast. It will fade, but it's such a beautiful colour. And it is medium staining, non-granulating, and transparent. But yeah, I really liked the look of this colour. And although it's rated as non-granulating, I could actually see some granulation, especially when you get different values. So I'm stuck as to whether to get it. Is it worth getting something that you think will fade? Probably not. I don't know. Now we have Permanent Alizarin Crimson, which is made of PR177, PV19, and PR149. So again, you can kind of see that having PV14, i.e. quinacridone red, you know, could be of benefit. You can definitely mix some nice colors. It is a series 2 color, excellent light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and transparent. It did dull down a bit once it got dry though, so it's not as like bright as we are seeing it now, and you can catch that at the end. Next we have Rhodonite Genuine, which doesn't have any pigment information on it. It's a series 2 Primatech color, excellent light fastness, low staining, non-granulating, and transparent. And as I said, Primatech is like a specialist line where they've actually made it from mineral pigments. It's not the brightest of colors, but it's kind of like a nice light pink, if you like. Next we have Carmine, which is again a deep cool red. It's PR176, a series 2 color, very good light fastness, although it's not been rated by ASTM. It's high staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. And I'm kind of going back on the Rhodonite Genuine, the Primatech color, because it just didn't activate that well. So I hear it's a common thing with the Primatech colors, so I just tried to go back to see if I could get more pigment out and get it a bit brighter, but I couldn't. I don't know if that's a question of the dot card not being accurate or just a resemblance of what the paint actually behaves like. But skipping forward, we now go to Rose Madder Permanent, which is PR209, PV19 yet again, and PR202. It's a series 2 color, excellent light fastness, non-staining, non-granulating, and transparent. And again, it's just a beautiful color. For me, it would either be a question of getting this color or the quinacridone red in terms of like my my cool reds, if you like. Now for the brightest pink of all, Opera Pink, it's PR122 series 1 color. It's fugitive, so basically will fade / change with time. It is non-staining, which is actually quite surprising given like how bright and poignant it is. You'd think it would be. It is granulating and also rated as transparent, although looking at it, to be perfectly honest, for me it looks semi-transparent at best, probably again leaning towards the opaque side, but that's initial opinions when looking at it. This isn't really a color that I would have much use for, but it's there. Next we have Potter's Pink, PR233. It's a series 3 color. Do you see what I mean? Series 3 color. It's excellent light fastness, low staining, granulating, and semi-transparent. And for me, this color is just not for me. I just don't like it. It looks closer to brown than it does to pink for me. And I think it's very much a love it or hate it kind of color. I could maybe see myself using it to do very vintage florals maybe, but I think apart from that I wouldn't really have it in my palette, and the fact that it's more expensive than other colors probably means that it's going to be at the bottom of the pile in terms of me getting it. Next we have Quinacridone Pink, which is PV42, and this is so nice. Maybe by now you can see the kind of colors I like. I can just imagine making such beautiful purples with this, but it is a series 2 color. It's very good light fastness, although it's not being rated. It's low staining, non-granulating, and transparent. Looking at it personally, I actually think it does granulate a little bit, not too much, but definitely for me, there is a bit of granulation there. Following that, we have Quinacridone Rose, which is PV19. Again, it's a series 2 color, excellent light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and transparent. Then we have Quinacridone Lilac, which is a series 2 color, slightly cooler than the colors we've seen before. It's very good light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and transparent. Now we have Quinacridone Magenta, which is PR202. It's a series 2 color, rated as excellent light fastness, but not actually rated or tested. It is a medium staining, non-granulating, transparent color, and it actually ends up fading a little bit more, so it doesn't look as cool as it does in the screen right now. Same for Pyrrole Crimson, which is PR264. It's a series 2 color, excellent light fastness but not rated by ASTM. It is medium staining, non-granulating and semi-transparent, and again it kind of fades a little bit with time and doesn't quite look as poignant as it does on the screen at the moment. We're starting to make our way towards the purples. This is Quinacridone Fuchsia PR202. Again, it's a Series 2 colour, excellent light fastness although not rated, medium staining, non-granulating and transparent. Again, it kind of tends to fade into like a bit more of a rose colour once it's dry, but yeah, it's okay. We have Mayan Violet, which is PV58. It's a Series 3 colour, very good light fastness, low staining, granulating and transparent. And again, like it's just a nice reddish purple. We now have Bordeaux, which is PV32. It's a Series 2 colour, very good light fastness, although not rated. It is medium staining, non-granulating, semi-transparent, and it's kind of like a purplish red, to be perfectly honest. I'm quite surprised how closely it leans towards purple, hence the PV in the pigment name. We then have Quinacridone Violet, which is PV19 again. It's a Series 2 colour, excellent light fastness, high staining, non-granulating and rated as transparent, but for me, I don't know, maybe it's a bit closer to semi-transparent, but again, a very nice colour. We then have Permanent Violet, which is PR88. Now this is a Series 3 colour, it's excellent light fastness, it's medium staining, non-granulating and semi-transparent, and again this to me looks like a reddish purple. Again, a really nice colour. The colour that I am talking about next is I'm a bit confused by. So this is a Perylene Violet, which is PV29. Now this is a Series 3 colour, it's excellent light fastness, although not rated. It is medium staining, non-granulating and transparent. Now, although it starts off kind of like a really nice dusky purple, it then dries into like a bland brown. Which is the kind of thing that I would maybe expect it to be doing if the light fastness wasn't good and I left it in the sun. I'm not really sure what happened, but it's meant to be one of the expensive paints and I don't like it. And this leads on to Cobalt Violet, which is again another colour that I do not like. I barely got a swatch included in this swatch card, but I think, to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure it would have made a massive difference. It's PV49. It's a Series 3 colour again. It is excellent light fastness, although not rated. It's non-staining, granulating and transparent, and I just do not like this colour. Unfortunately, I actually bought this colour before I had the swatch cards and before I knew about it, so I do have it and I'll show you swatches later, but yeah, I just don't like it at all. Very difficult to reactivate. Cobalt Violet Deep, same kind of problem but not as bad as the Cobalt Violet. It's PV14, a Series 3 colour, again excellent light fastness, low staining, granulating and rated as transparent, although for me it's actually semi-transparent, and again both of these colours were quite difficult to reactivate with the water, and just the effect is just kind of had, the way that someone else worded it which made sense was low pigment load, which to me makes no sense because it's an expensive paint, but yes, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Then next we have Ultramarine Red, which is PV15. It's a Series 1 colour. It is excellent light fastness, non-staining, granulating and transparent, and again to me it's not the best of colors. It just doesn't have the kind of coverage that I want, and I don't like the way that it granulates, so that's a no from me. Then we have Rose of Ultramarine. Now this color has been recommended so many times by quite a few of my viewers and subscribers. Thank you so much for the recommendation. It is PB29 and PB19. It's a Series 1 colour. It's excellent light fastness, medium staining, granulating and transparent. I must be honest, I am not too sure about this colour. I can see that it granulates beautifully, like I can see the purples and the reds like trying to escape from it, and if you watch my last live stream that I did on the 4th of March, then you will see that that's the kind of thing that I love to see and I loved in the painting. But that being said, on this swatch card it just granulated a little bit funny. like in a little bit of an odd way. So I'm just wondering if it's a question of where I swatched as opposed to the color itself. But I do want to give it another shot because, as I said, quite a few people have told me like Rose of Ultramarine is bae, it's absolutely everything. And it initially swatched out so beautifully, like in terms of the color that I try to mix myself is this. So I'm going to give it another shot and I'll let you guys know in a future video. In terms of colors that I would avoid or certainly not buy based on these swatches, personally, there's Cobalt Violet Deep as well as Cobalt Violet. Now, I made the mistake of buying Cobalt Violet before knowing this, and as you can see from the swatch, I just didn't enjoy it. It honestly felt like I was painting with pigmented PVA glue. So yes, it's better on the dot card. So on the dot card, it's actually not as bad as the paint itself, which is what made me think that perhaps there's something wrong with the tube of paint. But yes, the Cobalt Violet, the Cobalt Violet Deep are not for me. The Potter's Pink I also wasn't a fan of, or the Opera Pink. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it. I just think it's a lot brighter than I would use or need. The Ultramarine Red I wasn't a great fan of, and to be perfectly honest, it looks purple anyway, but basically wasn't very pigmented, and I think there are just other colors that I could get that would better serve me. The colors that I am contemplating getting based on these swatches is the Aussie Red Gold, which I know is granulating and I know what I keep saying, but it's actually stunning, and also the Rose of Ultramarine, not because of the swatch but based on the recommendations that I have had. Then if I were to get a palette looking at this, I would get a warm yellow and a cool yellow. So my warm yellow would probably be New Gun Beige, which I have, or the Hansa Yellow Deep, and my cool yellow would be the Hansa Yellow Light, which I do have. And in terms of reds, so I'd be a bit stuck. So I actually have Quinacridone Rose, and looking at it, I don't see much of a significant difference between that and the Quinacridone Pink, which is the color that I love. So I love both of those colors, and even when I swatched it for the first time, taken aback by how stunning they are. And in terms of, I guess, a warm red, I'm not, like I mentioned, I'm not really that into oranges, so I didn't really feel very passionately about the warm reds. So I would consider getting the Pyro Red, which is the PR178, which is the color that I kind of described as like bright red lipstick because it's just so bright. I like that. I do have Pyro Scarlet, which to me looks a bit, it's okay. It's like it's an okay red. It gets the job done. And then an alternative for me would probably be Vermilion. As you can see, the Jackson's watercolor catalog, which is available for £1, and I'll link it down below, did come in handy because that's where most of the pigment information came from, and it saved me going back and forth on the computer. The thing that I would say is quite significant is that, especially with the yellows, the colors that are printed in the magazine and the colors that I was seeing online are very different to the colors that I swatched. Especially as the colors kind of got warmer. For some of them, it just seemed as if there isn't just much of a difference online or on the printed magazine, whereas when you actually look at the colors themselves, you can see the colors getting warmer as they get lower, and you can see the subtle differences between the two. I hope that you can see it on the screen as well in terms of looking at it, but that's the one thing that I would also kind of, in terms of being mindful when you are selecting what colors you'd like to buy. This video just covers a part of the Daniel Smith range, so if you want to see the rest, then be sure to check out the playlist and the videos that are going to follow that have the other 3 pages. And also, if you want to know whether it's actually worth getting dot cards or whether I can get a good enough, I guess, idea of what colors I want from watching a video like this or from watching the online catalogs, check out that video as well. If you've made it this far into the video, you are a true MVP. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much, and I will see you next week. Bye.